You're offering a great service to someone, and that's what it's all about, really, is helping someone else, helping other people. Our seniors have always been there for us, raising kids, raising their children. And now it's time for us to cater to our seniors. They've done so much for us, especially as parents, mentors, whatever.
Welcome to the RAL Room Assisted Living Podcast with your hosts, Charlie Cameron and Alex Schlau. This is your go-to show for cutting-edge insights from industry leaders in residential assisted living.
Whether you're ready to launch your own assisted living business or looking to invest in this fast-growing, high-impact sector, we are here to equip you with the tools, strategies, and confidence you need to succeed. Get ready to ride the silver tsunami and change the future of senior care. Now on to today's show. Welcome back to today's episode of the RAL Room Assisted Living Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Alex Schlau, and today we are thrilled to have Sonya Paige Hall on the podcast. Sonya, thank you so much for joining us. Do you mind giving us a brief introduction to you, where you are right now in your assisted living journey before we jump back in time to how it all started?
Well, hi, Alex, and I'm happy to be here. Thanks for the invitation. I live in Fort Myers, Florida, and I'm a assistant living core trainer, certified core trainer, and a certified administrator, RAL administrator. So that's where I am right now.
That is awesome. Yeah, for folks don't know this, we had a lot of difficulty getting this podcast finally recorded between internet outages and alarms, sleeping through alarms and all the above. So I'm really excited to learn from you today. Let's talk about your journey getting started in residential assisted living. When did that all begin for you?
I was heavily into group homes. I had a company dealing with group homes, and I went to a training one time, and as I'm in this training, I didn't know what the training really was about, what it was going to consist of. I thought it was group homes, but it ended up being about assisted living. And I was excited about it for the information that I was learning. And the trainer pulled me to the side and we had a conversation. And from that conversation, she ended up being my mentor and training me for 5 years to become a trainer. So I left group homes because assisted living, the information and consulting was so much easier. So it was very interesting, and I fell in love with rules and regulations. I love teaching rules and regulations.
That's
So that's how
awesome.
I
Yeah,
got into it.
that's awesome. Looking forward to learning a bit more about some of those rules and regulations. Was there anything that really drew you to the senior population, or was there kind of like that aha moment when you were working with a trainer who ended up training you for 5 years?
Oh, wow. I have a real story, true story. My grandfather was in assisted living, and he married a lady that was half his age, and he used to have businesses and all those kind of things, but she these are real stories that really happen in real life. She tried to starve my grandfather. She was starving him for the house. And we had me and my mom and my aunt, we had a real hard time trying to get him away from her. And he would sit on the porch every day when he was such an outgoing person, very outgoing. And he, we, when we noticed him sitting on the porch, we knew that something was wrong. And so we ended up learning that he was being starved. She would tell us that he's not taking his medications and all this and that, he won't eat. So me and my mom living in Fort Myers, he was living in another city at the time, and my aunt. And so when we went and my mom started looking for his medications, found a bag with medications that had never been opened. My grandfather laying in the bed, and it was like devastating because I really thought he was dying. And I crawled in the bed with him and told him, let's get up, let's get up. We ended up getting him up, sat him to the table, fed him some fruit. He ate like crazy. So we put him on clothes and everything and took him out to one of his favorite restaurants. And it was a buffet, and he loved fish and ice cream. And when I tell you, he sat at that table and asked for seconds right then and there, we knew that she was really trying to starve him. And during that time, I was a case manager. So we had a hard time trying to get him from her. So he ended up, by not eating, he ended up with his not lungs, but his throat got really weak, and ended up putting him in a specialized hospital. And so he stayed there. He ended up with a tube tube, I'm sorry. But he got better. The doctor said he would never talk again. But he ended up talking again, eating and everything. So then we had to get an attorney. You had to get power of attorney over him and everything. Brought him to Fort Myers, and he started thriving. And we put him in assisted living. He did really well. But then we had to put him in a nursing home for a little while for therapy. And so rehab. And my mom was taking him because his circulation was getting really poor. And my mom ended up taking him to the doctor for a routine checkup. And he ended up having, I don't know what you call those, but from circulation problems, he ended up with canker sores right in the middle between his leg and his feet, where it bends like that. And so the doctor was checking him. He unwrapped his leg, and those brown hard paper towels that he have in the bathrooms, the doctor found those brown paper towels in each one of his sores. And right then and there, I said that was enough. So we put him back took him out, put him back into assisted living, and he started thriving again. But make a long story short, that's when I fell in love with assisted living, because I said, I don't want anybody else to go through that because of what my grandfather went through. And so now I go to assisted living every week. I volunteer because I love that population. I love when they give the wisdom and everything, but that was an experience, and it was devastating for our family. So when he passed away, the wife didn't even come to the funeral. She didn't even come. She only saw him one time while he was living here with us, but we made it through, and assisted living became my passion. So
Wow.
that's where I am today.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that. I'm glad that you guys got involved when you did, and he was ultimately able to thrive in assisted living. I feel like so many of us listening to that story and other stories on the podcast can relate. We've all had that personal experience or touch of assisted living or the need for assisted living. And it's heartbreaking that seniors are treated that way, and that there's still a world where there's a skilled hospital, as you mentioned, that are using those paper towels and ulcers. And it's heartbreaking. And that's why we do the podcast, to hear from people and learn from people, so that we can hopefully change that care environment, hopefully take way better care of seniors, because they certainly deserve it. So thank you for doing that. Thank you for sharing your story, and thanks for doing what you do. Let's talk about the beginning of working as a core trainer. What was that like for you? What does that entail for you, just for folks who don't know what that looks like?
There in Florida, in order to operate a RAL, you have to be an administrator, or a manager and administrator have to have the same trainings. And what I teach is, it's a mandatory required course, 26-hour training on rules and regulations of how to operate, how to run a RAL. And what I do, I teach that course it's 26 hours. After I do the 26 hours with them, then I report it to the state. And then the state allows them, then they allow and approve them to be able to take the exam to get certified as an administrator. So once they pass the exam, then the state will send them their certification, and then they can proceed into opening up a RAL, the process of opening up a RAL. And I also, once they take my class, then some come back to me and ask me, would I be a consultant for them to help them get it open. And I'm doing a consulting job right now, just got hired yesterday, for helping someone opening up a RAL. And it's a lot of paperwork, but it's so worth it. It's so worth it. And so once they open up their RAL, then they're good to go. Yeah.
That's
So,
great. Congrats on the new consulting job. That's awesome. What
thank
are some of
you.
the biggest mistakes that you see new RAL operators make, and how can they avoid that?
Oh, wow. The biggest mistake I see is RAL owners not running their business like a business. And they, I had one student that became a RAL owner, and medication is huge. Medication is really huge. And they got closed down because of medication errors, which is not really hard to correct. But they didn't know anything about assisted living, and you don't have to know anything about assisted living in order to open up one, as long as you know your rules and regulations. They don't know how important the rules and regulations are. They don't realize that rules and regulations is the Bible to running your business. And some try to cut corners because they want to keep all the money in house, but if you offer very good service, supreme service, they will come. And if you don't know how to run your RAL or don't want to run your RAL, hire a consultant. And a consultant can come in and do your mock surveys for you to keep you on track. So
Yeah.
that's the biggest mistake I see.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
great advice. It's a people business, right? And you have to run it
Yes.
like a business, and you have to provide exceptional care. And we're talking about grandmas and grandpas here, and you need to really understand the gravity of what that means to care for folks, especially towards the end of life. That is super important. What would you tell someone if they're just thinking about getting started? What would you tell them about getting started in the assisted living industry?
I would tell them to make sure you don't jump ahead and just start opening up your RAL, because a lot of them do. And do your due diligence. Make sure you take the course. Pay attention in the course because it's very intense. It's a very intense course. And because rules are changing every year, they're updating the rules and regulations. And that's one thing that I would tell them to please do, because you need to run your business like a business. Yeah.
Absolutely. What are some of the rules and regulations that commonly get missed or commonly get flagged on an inspection in your experience?
Medication is a big one. And they usually come up with top 10 top mistakes that they make. And but one of the main ones at top is the medication, and then records and record keeping. And when I go in and I do consulting for records, then there's not always, I shouldn't say that, but sometimes, most of the time, the records are not in order, and the files are missing the trainings and documentation of their medical background, their history, and things like that. And so those things you have to keep up to date, because it's easy to miss when a person needs to renew their trainings or whatever. So that's very important. So those are like the top two that I notice, but there's
That's
more, but those are like the main ones.
Yeah, absolutely. I know you work in Florida, Sonia. What does the training requirements look like in Florida for folks?
It's not that bad, to be honest. The trainings, can I compare? I want to compare
Absolutely.
group homes versus assisted living. Trainings are not that bad. You can do your own trainings, or you can hire someone to do your trainings for you. And policies and procedures is one thing that you definitely have to follow. And one important training that I realize is that elopement drills, you have to make sure you do your elopement drills like you're supposed to, and not sleep on those, because when they talk about elopement drills, they think you just have to do elopement drills in the daytime. But you have to remember, you have day staff and you have night staff. Okay. Night staff have to do elopement drills just as well as your day staff. But the requirements are not that bad. And long as you keep your logs of your employees and your staff and their training when they're due, you're good to go. You're fine. It's not rigid. It's not a rigid thing.
Yeah, just making sure that you're doing them on all shifts and everyone's getting trained
Mm-hmm.
appropriately.
I agree.
That's really important. Yeah, elopements are probably most likely going to happen at night as people slim
Right,
down and
exactly.
decide they want to get out of Dodge.
Sorry to interrupt this episode, but let's be honest. Most real estate investing right now, it's either buy a fourplex or try Airbnb and hope for the best.
Yeah, we're not here for that.
We're here to show you what we believe is the most overlooked high cash flow real estate strategy in the game right now. You guessed it, residential assisted living. It's literally the one place in real estate where you can net six figures on a single home and feel like a decent human being at the same time. You're helping sweet old ladies eat pancakes and play bingo and live longer through better care. You tell me what's better than that.
So we're hosting a free live webinar called How You Can Create Financial Freedom with Residential Assisted Living. No fluff, just value. And it's happening at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 6:30 Mountain Time. No excuses. It's online. Put on sweatpants. We won't judge.
We'll break down why residential assisted living is the best opportunity right now, the 5 steps to take down your first home, and how to set up a business that makes a real impact and real money.
Spots are limited, so don't be that person who DMs us in 3 months saying, wait, is it too late to start?
So hit up theralroom.com/webinar and register now.
Be the hero your grandma already thinks that you are.
We'll see you there. Pancakes not included.
Yes,
That
and said one thing regarding elopement. It's not just elopement trainings, there are more trainings, but that was just one I wanted to touch on because that's one that's very important because staff working at night, they like to sleep and hide, whatever. But the thing is, when it comes to those kind of things, when with the elopement, you have to, if you have 16 beds or less, you don't need wake staff. But 17 beds or more, you need a wake staff. But so the question is, what would you do with staff with 16 or less beds if you don't need a wake staff? I suggest that you have some kind of monitoring device where you can, a bell or something, or alarm, or either a camera, but you can't invade in their privacy because it's their home, but a camera somewhere in an open space where you can see if they're going in and out or waking up during the night. So that's one of the main things I want to say about elopement. So
That's great.
that's one thing
Yeah,
that you really need to pay attention to.
thank you. Yeah. Do you mind hitting on policies and procedures a bit, or some things that you feel like are important for people to really think through as they're creating their policies and procedures?
Oh, yes. Policies and procedures. One of them, there's 2 main things that you really need when it comes to rules and regulations, policies and procedures. Make sure you have when it comes to your fire safety, and your emergency plan, your CEMP. That's the big plan that you have to have, and it entails your generator, your fire drills. Your fire safety, and those things. And it's one more that you need. And when it comes to policies and procedures, make sure you follow your policies and procedures. And a lot of times I tell my RAL owners also is that when you start out, you want to be the biggest and the best and the brightest, right? But don't set yourself up because they only require the minimum. They only require the minimum that's in the rules and regulations. And what I always say, scale small. Take baby steps to scale. You can be the biggest and brightest, whatever, but take baby steps because when you're first starting out, if you've never been in that world before, you're learning this world, then take baby steps and scale. And then you can become the biggest and brightest because the better service you offer, the better success you'll have with getting residents. And another thing also is when it comes to rules and regulations, make sure whatever you put in those policies and procedures that you're actually going to do. You actually follow your policies and procedures. It's best to practice those policies and procedures every day and not just when you think that a surveyor is coming around. Because if you practice it every day, it's an everyday thing. And policies and procedures are very important when you're hiring new staff. When you're hiring new staff, please make sure that everyone in your facility, every staff is trained on those policies and procedures, because one slip up can take your business down. And you can have a great business. This is such a wonderful business. And so that's one thing I would tell them about the
That's
rules
some
and
great
regulations.
advice.
Yeah.
Yes, I know that's great advice. You mentioned starting small and learning before you grow and scale, and the importance of word of mouth to get more residents. A lot of folks struggle, especially in the beginning, getting new residents, attracting new residents, staying fully occupied. What would you say you've noticed has been a big key to success when it comes to finding residents? Or what are some things that you've noticed other operators do that has been helpful for them to attract new residents?
Make sure you go to the hospitals, develop rapport with your case managers, rehab places, nursing homes, because a lot of those residents you can get from those places because they're in those places because probably they've fallen. And once they get better, the kids don't want them living at home anymore by themselves because they're living in other states. Hospitals, building reports with case managers, networking with also your family and your friends. Your friends have friends, and they have parents that would like to downsize, and they want to feel like home. And one thing I want to say is that RALs are becoming very popular right now, and their parents are, well, seniors, they are going to the big box facilities, but they're sacrificing quality, and they're choosing the cheaper ones, the cheaper price ones where the service is not as good. But if you offer exceptional services, scale slowly, not fast, learn your craft, perfect your craft, and then you offer exceptional service, they'll come. Because what I notice in the big box facilities, because I go every week and volunteer, sometimes the food is not that good, and they don't pay attention to all of them, give them that personalized attention. In the smaller ones, they get personalized attention, they get gourmet food, and there's just so many positives in the smaller rails. And having a big rail, a lot of them just stay in their room. Sometimes they don't want to come out. Yes, there's a lot of people and they can make friends or whatever, but some of them don't want to be around a lot of people. And so they would like to have their own privacy. So being in a smaller rail, that is their privacy.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it can be really overwhelming as a senior to go from living at home independently and then slowly needing help with those activities of daily living, and then going from that into a big box facility where there may be hundreds of residents. And it's just a complete shift of what it was like when you were at home. And that's why I love residential assisted living. One of the many reasons is just how much more home like it feels, how much more personalized care the residents are getting, the better food. There's just tons and tons of benefit to it. Is there anything else from a big box facility perspective as you volunteer that you've seen that you're like, hey, these are things that I would tell people to consider doing in their residential assisted living, or some other comparing and contrasting that you can make between the two, Sonya?
One thing that I see is that the type of activities, and I give my clients, when I do consulting, I give them suggestions. And if I was a rail owner, what I would do is each person has their own gifts, and they've had outstanding careers. A lot of them are professionals. And one thing I would suggest is, in compare and contrast, like I love paint and sip. And I've met 2 or 3 professional painters, and I go and they teach me how to paint and I love it. And personalize to whatever, create your activity calendar around what that person loves to do, what brings them peace, what brings them joy, instead of just sitting around watching TV. Bring in people, bring in singers. They love when people come in and sing. do many concerts for them. And I was supposed to go today and do help with the activities because they have music today. And they love playing the pianos. Let them, if you have a piano, let them do whatever they do, whatever they love. Just create your activities around what they love to do, not what's easy for you, but what they love to do. And that will make it so much more pleasant for them and you. And it's a
That's
good
great
way of
advice.
recruiting also.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, people love being in your home and love getting to do the activities that they love. They're gonna be your advocate and tell everyone about your home, and so that is fantastic. Sonia, what are some trends? Looking at current industry trends and future outlook, what are some trends you're seeing in the assisted living industry right now, especially in the more residential sector?
What I'm seeing now, I touched on it a few minutes ago, is that being in the big box facility versus the smaller facilities is they're sacrificing quality over a cheaper, bigger box rail. And so you can, if they really knew about these smaller rails, then let me tell you, they would choose these smaller rails because, like I said, they're personalized care, they're personalized, individualized, just being able to have a nurse right there, not a nurse, but a staff member right there with you 24 hours a day, being there and attending to you, whatever it is. You don't have to wait an hour for someone to come and help you because they're helping other residents. And you have that person right there. And the gourmet meals, oh my gosh, let me tell you, some of them have the best meals. And a lot of what I like is there's there's so many diverse rail owners from other countries, all walks of life, and their cooking is spectacular. And so you're not just eating the same things every day, not the same meals. So they tailor the meals, and I love assistant living and the smaller ones because they have free range. I even have one that said, I'm going to raise chickens in the back so they can have fresh eggs. Can you imagine that? I think that's beautiful. I think that's beautiful. So that's the comparison that I could say. And the trends is that now that I think the more that smaller rails become popular, the more they're going to gravitate to the smaller rails. So,
Yeah, I agree. I think we're definitely going to start trending away from commercial more into residential. And I think it just makes so much more sense. It keeps folks in the neighborhood, maybe even in the neighborhood where they were
mhm.
living. It's that more personalized care. They're going to live longer. It's just a great way to do it. I love it. And yeah, I was thinking about just how cool it is that you can have the ability to tailor not only activities, but also tailor meals to be what the residents like. And all those sorts of things. We were visiting with a friend, Dave Reese, if he's listening to this, in Virginia at his assisted living homes called Evermore. And they were telling us that whenever they're doing a tour, they figure out, okay, what is the dessert that the senior loves? And then they'll make that for them. And
Yes,
so it smells
yes.
like apple pie, and they come in and they automatically are like, oh, I love apple pie. And so there's just all these little ways that you can personalize your care approach and really provide exceptional care to the residents. So I love that. Our folks are listening to this, they're on the fence about getting started in residential assisted living. What would you say to them?
Oh, I would say don't hesitate. Just do it. Just do it because it's so rewarding. And not only is it for you because it's a business for you, but you're doing a great service. You're offering a great service to someone, and that's what it's all about really, is helping someone else, helping other people. And I think about this all the time. Our seniors have always been there for us, raising kids, raising their children. And now it's time for us to cater to our seniors. They've done so much for us, especially as parents, mentors, whatever. Now let's give back to them. Just do it.
Absolutely.
And if they're on the fence about funding, there's so many options. This group offer a lot of funding, and there's options. There's leasing, there's just so much.
Yeah, that's
So,
definitely something we see. Folks are really worried about the funding aspect. They're worried about finding and attracting good caregivers, and then they're worried about getting
mhm.
residents in the home. Any tips or tricks in the last few minutes we have in terms of finding good caregivers or finding good financing options for people who are listening?
Financing options, I would say come to you guys. You guys are good.
Thank
If you
you.
don't have the
Yeah.
finances right now, think about leasing. Think about leasing, finding a landlord that will let you lease. The thing is, you would have to be cautious of the landlord. You would have to make modifications if there are not already modifications to the facility, to the residential facility. And when it comes to caregivers, that's the biggest challenge of finding good caregivers. So I would suggest is that if you're working at a hospital already or some kind of assistant living already, think about look at the ones that are pay attention to the ones that are doing a really good job. That's doing a really good job and that you know that you can trust and that they're really taking care of the residents. That's really taking care of the residents and that who really care. And you have to really do your due diligence when it comes to finding the right staff, the right staff. But I can tell you, if you pay them what they're worth, if you pay them what they're worth, I think they will stay longer and do the right thing because they don't get paid enough. But if you treat them like family, pay them, then I think you'll have a better quality of staff.
Yeah, that is great advice. Caregivers, they work so hard. Shout out to all the caregivers who are listening to this. Thank you for what you do and the care that you provide. And Sonia, you're
Yes.
exactly right. Finding the folks with the right heart is so important. When you're building a team, especially in this space, like you have to have the heart for caring for seniors. And
Mhm.
80% of hiring the right people, I feel like in this scenario, is finding the right heart, the right culture, the right fit. And then you can train them on the other aspects that they need. And that's where you come in and do a great job at training people. And it's just really important to find people who have the right heart because this is a hard business, but it's a really important business for people to be in.
Hmm. And one thing I thought about too is that in the high schools, some of these high schools have academies, medical academies, and some of the students that you find that's in these medical academies, they're fresh, they're brand new. You can train them to be good caregivers. That's where you could do a lot of recruiting also. And you can train them from the beginning, from they're not set in their ways yet, and they're very open to learning. And you can train them however you need them to be. And so I think that's a good one because I'm an educator also, high school educator, and I see it every day. I see it every day. And parents they put their kids in trade school and they learn all of these things. And you take them up under your wings and teach them, they will be perfect for staff.
Yeah, absolutely. And you never know if down the road they may become an amazing manager of the home and then help you
Yes.
scale and grow that way. And so, yeah, it just really means a lot to lean into your staff and care for them well, as you mentioned, and train them well. And who knows, maybe they're going to be a partner with you and help you expand.
Hmm.
So I really love that. That is great advice. Sonia, before we go, what is something that you're working on right now that you're passionate about?
I'm very passionate about growing my business and consulting. And like I said, I'm doing a consulting job right now, and I'm just very passionate about my seniors and my trainings. And I love, like I said, I love rules and regulations. I'm always learning because rules and regulations are always changing and staying on top of my rules and regulations and trying to put out the best administrators that I can.
That's great. Do you work only in the state of Florida or do you work in other states as well?
I can only train in the state of Florida, offer the 26-hour in the state of Florida, but I do consulting all over. I can
That's
do
awesome.
throughout the United States.
That's great. If listeners want to learn from you, they want to reach out to you, potentially work with you, how can they do that?
or they can reach out to me at Sonya Paige Hall, Sonya Paige, Paige, Hall, Hall, all together, Sonya Paige Hall at gmail.com. Reach out to me and I'll be more than happy to help. More than
Awesome.
happy.
That's great. Sonya Paige Hall, thank you so much for joining us on the RAL Room Assisted Living podcast today, sharing your insights. It's been a pleasure learning from you, and I'm glad we could make this happen.
Thank you, and I appreciate it, Alex. It's been a pleasure.
Absolutely. Thank you for what you do for seniors.
You're welcome. You're
Thanks.
welcome. Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you for tuning in to the RAL Room Assisted Living Podcast. We hope you found today's episode insightful. If you enjoyed it, make sure to leave us a raving 5-star review. And a quick review helps more listeners find the show and more seniors get the exceptional care they deserve.
And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. And just so you know, we have prepared some free resources for you to help you succeed in residential assisted living in addition to this podcast. Head over to theralroom.com, that is the RAL room.com, to download our free 10-step guide to launch your first or next residential assisted living home, or our 10 reasons to passively invest in residential assisted living ebooks.
And if you're ready to take the next step and make real moves in the RAL industry, join us in the RAL Room Mastermind. It is an exclusive community where we deep dive into everything you need to launch and grow your own residential assisted living business. You'll get access to recorded courses, live calls with industry experts, a RAL calculator, resources and tools, like-minded entrepreneurs, funding opportunities, and an expert networking community to help you along your journey.
Be sure to join us next time on the RAL Room Podcast as we continue to explore the world of residential assisted living with more great guests. See you then.